I remember the smell of sawdust and fresh-cut pine, a scent that always meant hope to me. It mingled with the faint sweetness of Emily's perfume when she dropped by my small workshop, her arms wrapping around me from behind, her chin resting on my shoulder. We had a dream, she and I, a simple, beautiful dream. A little house in Pittsburgh, maybe a two-story, with a small yard for a dog and, eventually, a couple of kids. That was our future, carved out of my tireless hands and her bright, loving spirit. I was Jason Riley, 30 years old, and a carpenter by trade, though I considered myself more of an aspiring craftsman. I worked hard, taking on every odd job, every extra shift, from building custom cabinets to fixing creaky porch swings. Every dollar I earned, every splinter I pulled from my thumb, felt like another brick laid in our future home. My savings account was our shared altar, slowly growing, inching us closer to that down payment. Emily was my biggest cheerleader, her words always echoing my own deepest desires. We'd spend evenings poring over Zillow listings, pointing out potential nurseries, debating paint colors for a living room that didn't exist yet. She'd talk about our children, their names, the way we'd raised them, instilling in me a sense of unwavering devotion. Her voice, so full of warmth and conviction, was like a lullaby to my soul, promising a lifetime of simple joys and stability. I remember one crisp autumn evening. We were walking along the river, the city lights shimmering on the water. Emily squeezed my hand, her eyes sparkling as she looked up at me. She said, "Jason, I can just picture it, can't you? Us, curled up on the couch, the kids asleep upstairs, a fire crackling in the hearth. It's going to be perfect." And I believed her with every fiber of my being. My heart swelled, a quiet, almost painful ache of happiness. I saw it all so clearly. The worn wood floors I'd sand and polish myself, the sturdy kitchen table I'd build where we'd share meals and laughter, the way the morning sun would stream through the windows, waking us gently to a life we built together, brick by emotional brick, dollar by hard-earned dollar. I denied myself luxuries, ate ramen more often than I cared to admit, and drove my old beat-up truck until it practically fell apart, all for that vision. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was an investment in the most precious thing I could imagine. Our life, our family, our home. The future felt tangible, just beyond my reach, but getting closer with every swing of my hammer. Every late night spent sketching designs, every conversation with Emily about the life we were building. The air around us felt thick with possibility, a sweet perfume of shared dreams that I breathed in deeply, convinced it was the purest air I'd ever known. Then came the day that felt like the true beginning, the moment the future stopped being a distant horizon and became a vivid, immediate reality. Emily called me at work, her voice trembling, a breathless excitement bubbling through the phone line. "Jason," she said, her voice catching, "I have something to tell you." My heart pounded, a strange mix of apprehension and anticipation. She told me she was pregnant. For a moment, the world stopped. The buzzing of the circular saw in the background faded, the smell of wood dust vanished. All I could hear was the frantic beat of my own heart, and Emily's soft, joyful sobs on the other end. Pregnant. A baby. Our baby. It was like a dam breaking inside me, a flood of pure, unadulterated joy washing away every doubt, every struggle, every late night. I rushed home, leaving my tools scattered, hardly remembering the drive. She met me at the door, her eyes red-rimmed but shining, a small, tentative smile on her face. I swept her into my arms, spinning her around, laughing and crying all at once. This was it. This was everything. The house, the family, the entire beautiful dream. It was all rushing towards us, faster than I'd ever imagined. The next few months were a blur of frenetic activity. My work ethic, already formidable, doubled. I took on even more commissions, worked weekends, practically lived in my workshop. The savings account, once earmarked solely for a down payment, became a fund for a much grander purpose. Baby furniture, prenatal classes, a crib, tiny clothes, a stroller, all the things a new family would need. And the house, it had to be bigger now, a true family home with an extra bedroom for the little one. I shifted our Zillow searches from cozy two-bedroom bungalows to three-bedroom houses with a bit more space, a bigger yard. Emily would show me pictures of adorable baby outfits, her eyes alight, and I'd feel a surge of fierce, protective love. We went to furniture stores, picked out a changing table, discussed the merits of different car seats. Every purchase, every decision, felt like another step into our beautiful, unfolding future. Emily's bump started to show, a subtle curve that grew steadily. She'd often gently rub her stomach, a serene smile on her face, and I'd press my hand there, imagining the tiny life growing inside. We started attending prenatal classes, though Emily often went to the weekday ones alone, citing my demanding work schedule. I understood, of course. Someone had to earn the money to build this nest for us. She'd come home beaming, recounting stories from the class, details about breathing exercises, and what to expect. My heart swelled with pride and gratitude. I was building our future, literally, and she was carrying it. It felt like the perfect partnership, two halves creating something infinitely greater than themselves. The excitement was a constant hum beneath my skin, a vibrant energy that propelled me through long days and short nights. I felt invincible, utterly devoted to the life growing within Emily and the life we were building around it. Every hammer blow, every precise cut of wood, was a testament to my commitment, a prayer for our happiness. As the months stretched on, a tiny, almost imperceptible seed of unease began to sprout in the fertile ground of my joy. It wasn't doubt, not yet, but a faint, persistent whisper at the back of my mind. Emily's baby bump seemed inconsistent. Some days it appeared rounder, fuller, nestled beneath her maternity clothes. Other days, it seemed to recede, almost flat, like she hadn't gained any weight at all. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was just the way she dressed, or the angle of the light, or perhaps just my own lack of understanding about the nuances of pregnancy. After all, what did I know? I was a carpenter, not a doctor. Then there were the doctor's appointments. Emily always went alone. At first, it made sense. My schedule was relentless, and she'd insisted I didn't need to take time off from jobs that were paying for our future. But as time went on, and the appointments grew more frequent, I started to feel left out. I wanted to hear the heartbeat, to see the ultrasound photos, to be a part of those milestones. I'd ask her, "When's the next appointment?" "I'll clear my schedule, no matter what." She'd always have an excuse. "It was just a routine checkup," she'd say, "nothing exciting." Or, "The doctor wanted to see her alone for a quick chat." Sometimes, she'd mention a vague, last-minute cancellation. I'd feel a pang of disappointment. But then she'd show me a picture of a generic ultrasound image she'd found online, or tell me a funny anecdote about the waiting room, and my anxieties would temporarily recede. But the whispers grew louder. I started noticing other small things. She'd become evasive when I'd suggest a spontaneous walk where her bump might be more visible. She sometimes seemed uncomfortable with me touching her stomach, not in a protective way, but almost like she was hiding something. The prenatal classes, which she still attended mostly solo, started to feel less like shared preparation and more like a mysterious, separate world she inhabited. I'd ask her about what they learned, and her answers would sometimes feel rehearsed, a little too perfect. She even started getting upset if I pressed her for details, accusing me of not trusting her, of questioning her commitment to our baby. That always shut me down. The last thing I wanted was to hurt her feelings, especially when she was carrying our child. Still, the inconsistencies mounted. I remember one evening, she was bending over to pick up something, and for a fleeting moment, her maternity top rode up. Her stomach looked flat. Not just a little flat, but completely flat. My breath hitched. I blinked, convinced my eyes were playing tricks on me, or that I was just imagining things. By the time I truly focused, she had straightened up, her clothes settled, and the curve was back. I shook my head, trying to dislodge the unsettling image. I was just stressed, I told myself. Overworked. Paranoid. I loved her, and I loved our baby. Emily wouldn't lie to me. She couldn't. The thought was too monstrous to entertain. But the gnawing feeling, the cold knot in my stomach, wouldn't go away. It was a suffocating weight, pressing down on the joy I once felt so freely, replacing it with a creeping dread that I couldn't articulate, even to myself. I just kept working, kept saving, kept building, hoping that if I just focused on the tangible, the intangible doubts would eventually fade into nothing. The breaking point arrived like a punch to the gut, leaving me gasping for air. We were nearing what Emily said was her 8th month. The house search had intensified, and I was on the verge of making an offer on a beautiful three-bedroom, knowing it would deplete nearly all my savings. This time, when she mentioned her next doctor's appointment, I refused to take no for an answer. I told her, my voice firm, I'm coming with you. No excuses, no work. I need to be there. I need to see our baby. It wasn't a request. It was a demand born of months of suppressed anxiety and a desperate need for reassurance. Her reaction was immediate and chilling. Her face went pale, her eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. She stammered, saying something about how it was just a quick checkup, that I didn't need to bother, that she'd tell me everything. But I stood my ground. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw fear, not irritation, in her eyes. The pieces of the puzzle, the inconsistent bump, the solo appointments, the evasiveness, all clicked into place with a sickening finality. I told her, Emily, we are going to that appointment. Together. Or you're going to tell me what's really going on right now. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the frantic beat of my own heart. She started to cry, soft, desperate sobs that quickly escalated into hysterical gasps. She sank onto the couch, covering her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. And then, the words came, tumbling out in a torrent of shame and desperation, each one a shard of glass ripping through my chest. She wasn't pregnant. She had never been pregnant. The baby bump was prosthetic, carefully chosen and strategically placed beneath her clothes. The elaborate lies, the solo appointments, the found ultrasound pictures, it was all a meticulously constructed facade. She confessed she'd felt our relationship was stagnating, that she needed a catalyst to move things forward, to get me to commit fully, to push me into buying the house. And then came the final, brutal blow. She admitted she'd been using my hard-earned savings, the money for our house, for our baby, to pay off her own hidden, spiraling credit card debt. She saw my dream, my unwavering dedication, not as a shared future, but as her financial solution, a convenient, willing source of funds. My world didn't just shatter, it imploded. I remember staring at her, my mind numb, trying to process the enormity of her deception. The woman I loved, the mother of my imagined child, had meticulously crafted a lie that had consumed my life, my hopes, my entire future. The air grew thin, the room spun. The image of the little house, the children, the life we were supposed to build, crumbled into dust. All that was left was an echoing void, a gaping canyon of betrayal where my heart used to be. My hands, calloused and strong from years of building, trembled uncontrollably. I felt physically ill, my stomach churning with a mixture of disbelief, rage, and a profound, agonizing grief for a future that was nothing but a cruel, elaborate ghost. The days and weeks that followed Emily's confession blurred into a nightmare of emptiness. My bank account, once a testament to years of grueling labor and hopeful sacrifice, was hollowed out, a stark reflection of my own shattered spirit. The dream house, the one I had pictured in vivid detail, down to the grain of the wood floors, vanished like smoke. My savings, depleted not by a joyous down payment or baby necessities, but by Emily's hidden credit card debt, felt like a physical wound. My hands, once so purposeful, hung uselessly at my sides. The emotional trauma was immense, a crushing weight that pinned me to the floor. I felt foolish, a naive carpenter who had been so easily manipulated. The anger was a hot, searing flame, but beneath it was a deeper, colder grief. I wasn't just grieving Emily. I was grieving the unborn child, the family, the entire future I had meticulously planned and poured my heart into. It was a phantom limb pain, an ache for something that never truly existed. How could I have been so blind? How could someone I loved so deeply, trusted so completely, orchestrate such a cruel, elaborate deception? Every memory, every shared laugh, every tender moment was now tainted, viewed through the lens of her ultimate betrayal. Was any of it real? Or was I just a convenient mark in her calculated scheme? Emily, facing the consequences of her deception, became a pariah. Our small community, where everyone knew everyone, quickly learned the truth. Her manipulative nature was exposed, not just to me, but to friends, family, and acquaintances who had witnessed my devotion and her apparent pregnancy. She was left alone, ostracized, a reputation in tatters. but her isolation offered me no comfort. I was too lost in my own abyss of despair. I stopped going to my workshop, the tools lying silent, gathering dust. The smell of sawdust, once a comfort, now felt like a cruel reminder of what I had been building for a lie. I ate little, slept less, and the vibrant city of Pittsburgh, once full of promise, now felt like a gray, suffocating cage. I spent most of my time staring at walls, my mind replaying every conversation, every gesture, searching for clues I had missed, for red flags I had ignored. The truth was, there had been whispers, tiny inconsistencies, but I had loved her so fiercely, had wanted our future so desperately, that I had overridden every instinct, every flicker of doubt. I had built an entire world on a foundation of sand, and now it had all collapsed, leaving me buried in the rubble. I felt utterly alone, stripped bare of hope, my purpose evaporated. The future I had worked so hard for was gone, replaced by a vast, terrifying emptiness. I didn't know who I was anymore, or what I was supposed to do with hands that had nothing left to build. The quiet hum of my empty apartment was a constant reminder of the silence within me, a profound and desolate quiet that echoed the absence of everything I had once held dear. The turning point was slow, almost imperceptible, like a single seedling pushing through cracked earth after a long winter. I remember staring at my workshop, the door left ajar for weeks, gathering dust. The tools lay silent, accusing. One afternoon, a neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Henderson, knocked on my door. She'd heard what happened. Of course, everyone had. She didn't offer pity, just a quiet understanding in her eyes. She asked if I could fix her wobbly kitchen chair. It was a simple request, a small, tangible problem that needed a solution. My hands felt alien on the familiar wood, my movements stiff and hesitant at first. But as I sanded the splintered leg, as I carefully applied the wood glue and clamped it tight, something shifted within me. The rhythmic scrape of sandpaper, the solid feel of the wood, the focus required to make a perfect joint. It was a balm to my raw nerves. For those few hours, I wasn't Jason, the fool who lost everything. I was Jason, the carpenter, solving a problem with my hands and my skill. The chair, once broken, stood sturdy again. Mrs. Henderson's grateful smile was a small, unexpected warmth. That simple act sparked a flicker. I started going back to the workshop, not for money, not for a dream, but just to build. I saw an ad for a local children's charity needing toy chests and bookshelves for their new community center. It was almost an instinctual response. I reached out, offering my services. There was no client to impress, no down payment to save for, no future to build for someone else. This was different. This was just about the wood, the craft, the act of creation itself. I threw myself into it. Days bled into nights in the workshop, fueled by strong coffee and a desperate need to keep my hands busy, my mind focused. I built toy chests with dovetail joints, bookshelves sturdy enough to hold a lifetime of stories. The rhythmic hum of the saw, the scent of fresh pine, the smooth glide of a plane over wood, it was a meditation. Each piece of furniture became a small act of defiance against the emptiness, a tangible manifestation of effort and care, free from the weight of expectation or the shadow of betrayal. The process was incredibly therapeutic. There was a purity in creating something real, something solid, something that would genuinely benefit others. I wasn't just fixing a wobbly chair. I was building hope for children who needed it. I wasn't building a false future. I was building real, functional objects that would bring joy. People from the charity would stop by, bringing coffee, offering kind words, their genuine appreciation a stark contrast to the hollow promises I had lived by. I started talking to them, truly connecting, sharing stories not of grand dreams, but of the simple satisfaction of a job well done. I saw the children's faces light up when they saw the finished pieces, and in those moments, the crushing weight of my past began to lift, just a little. I was finding a new sense of purpose, not tied to a false future, but to the genuine connections I was making and the tangible good I could create with my own two hands. My true worth, I slowly realized, wasn't measured by a bank account or a shared dream, but by the integrity of my craft and the honesty of my actions. The wood didn't lie. It was solid, true, and always responded to honest effort. The workshop became my sanctuary, a place where the ghosts of a false future couldn't follow. The hum of the planer, the sharp scent of cedar, the feel of fine sawdust on my skin, these were the new rhythms of my life. I continued building for local charities, then for small community projects, never asking for payment, only for the chance to work with my hands. Each piece I crafted, a sturdy bench for a park, a display case for a local library, felt like another brick laid in a new foundation, a foundation built on something real and honest. The pain of Emily's betrayal never completely vanished. It was like a scar, a faint ache that sometimes flared up, especially when I saw young couples planning their futures or heard the distant cry of a baby. But it no longer consumed me. The despair had given way to a quiet resilience. I was still Jason Riley, the carpenter, but now I was also the man who had faced utter devastation and found a way to rebuild, not just a life, but himself. I learned to trust again, not blindly, but cautiously, starting with the solid integrity of the wood and the genuine smiles of the people I helped. The community, once a silent witness to my heartbreak, now became a source of strength, a network of real connections. I wasn't building a family house anymore, but I was building community, piece by piece, connection by connection. The empty bank account no longer felt like a symbol of loss, but a blank slate, a reminder that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in purpose and connection. Sometimes, I still thought about the little house I had dreamed of, the one with the sun streaming through the windows and the laughter of children. It was a bittersweet memory, a ghost of a future that never was. But now, when I looked at the furniture I'd built, the solid, honest pieces standing proudly, I saw a different kind of future. One that was slower, perhaps, and less grand, but infinitely more real. A future where my worth wasn't dependent on anyone else's lies, but on the strength of my own hands, the integrity of my heart, and the tangible good I could create in the world. I was slowly rebuilding my life, not just brick by emotional brick, but grain by honest grain, finding beauty and purpose in the authentic connections that emerged from the wreckage of a broken dream. The journey was long, and the path sometimes still shadowed, but I was walking it, one sturdy step at a time, toward a horizon that was truly my own.